Today I want to tackle the myth that Māori ceded sovereignty to the Crown, that they willingly gave up their own country. The fact that this belief is still fairly widely held astounds me, but at the same time I can see why it's a convenient narrative. You know, at the moment we've got characters like Julian Batchelor going around the country telling fellow Pākehā that Māori have no rights because they gifted them away in 1840. And of course, he's not the first one to do so. Before we talk about this word sovereignty, we need to first talk about the different versions of the treaty, because they say very different things. You have the English version of the treaty as well as the Māori version of the treaty. So firstly, if different, which of these versions should we honour? To me, and to many others, it is utterly clear that the Māori version of the treaty is the one that we ought to uphold. The first and most obvious reason being that of the 500 odd chiefs that eventually ended up signing the documents, all but 39 had signed the Māori texts. I mean, this just makes sense. It was written in their language, and it was this interpretation that they were agreeing with. To strengthen this position, the UN and international law dictates that in instances where treaties are written in multiple languages, it is the treaty written in the indigenous language that should be upheld. So then, if we take Te Tiriti and look more closely, what exactly was promised? In Article 1, what is gifted to the Crown is kawanatanga. Now this is a totally new word and was derived from the word kawana, which meant governor. But why would it benefit Māori to hand over governorship to the Crown? Well, you see, looking back through the conversations had by the rangatira at the time, it seems many were concerned with the conduct and behaviour of some of the Pākehā settlers. So giving the Crown the mana and power to govern over these people just made sense. So kawanatanga is gifted to the Crown. Then in Article 2 it states that Māori retain tino rangatiratanga, the direct translation of which is highest chieftainship, but it could also be interpreted as total and absolute sovereignty over their lands, kāinga and other taonga. Now it doesn't take a te reo expert to know which of these two terms carries the greater weight and importance. Kawanatanga, governorship, tino rangatiratanga, highest chieftainship. So what did rangatira believe they were agreeing to? Well, I really like how the Waitangi Tribunal puts it as different spheres of influence. You had Hobson and the Crown, who would retain influence over their people and affairs, while Māori retained influence over themselves, their lands and possessions. And then in instances of shared importance, we would come together. But if I'm being honest, a lot of this is just getting caught in the weeds, because if we can zoom out for a minute, it is totally inconceivable that all of the rangatira of this land suddenly and unanimously decided to willingly and without reservation gift their sovereignty or mana to a queen from a far off distant land. When you take into consideration tikanga Māori, as well as the power dynamics of the time, and you try and marry that with the long-standing colonial narrative that Māori handed over their country, it simply doesn't fit. And it doesn't fit because it didn't happen. So if Māori didn't cede sovereignty in 1840, then where does that leave us now? Well, that's a very difficult discussion to have when you've got so many people still refusing to accept the facts. But if we can accept the facts, we can come together and have this very important discussion together. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Hei kōna.